You remember when Elon bought Twitter, the let it sink in day, when he bought the sink in? So I showed up that same day. I think that totally changed how free speech on the internet works. At the time, the trending algorithm on Twitter had all sorts of issues. So Twitter is a place where all these ideas fight. And if you win, you get to spread, this is what people on Twitter want. Think of like the Twitter files and, all these examples of censorship happening at Twitter, right? And I was there when some of this happened. And one of the things I always sort of fought back on was like, the influence of politics inside these social media algorithms. Okay. So often people kind of often know, I think, the easy ones. They are like, oh, my account got shadow banned, right? Like, or I said something like, for example, in COVID, I said the virus came from a lab and, my account got blocked, which is, by the way, the NIH director, Jay Bhattacharya, he said that his account got blocked. And think about his story now, he's now like running the NIH because Twitter deleted his account, right? Like for basically saying, hey, maybe the virus came from a lab and, maybe I'm not totally sure about the mask thing. And they deleted his account. But what I also saw was like how easily algorithms can be used to shape politics. I'll give you a story. I was Twitter one day and I wake up and I'm scrolling the internet and I see this story. And I won't say who, but it is this famous Hollywood actor, right? And it says that this Hollywood actor has his movie project that was just announced, but the internet is mad at him for getting this movie project and he might lose it. And the reason it caught my eye was, all these stories would embed the same 2 or 3 tweets inside. And I worked on that. I ran a lot of the algorithms and I was like, these tweets look a bit weird. Like there's no followers, like there's no likes, retweets. How did these get found, right? Like why are these kind of getting surfaced up? So I had some free time and I sent some emails and I poked around. And it turned out what had happened is, do you know what trending on Twitter is?
Yeah.
So at the time, the trending algorithm on Twitter had all sorts of issues, all sorts of bugs, right? And what it would do is sometimes it would try and tell you, hey, this is what people are talking about right now on Twitter, right? It's trending. Sometimes we just kind of pick a random arbitrary thing and say it's now trending, right? When it couldn't find anything. And what happened one night, that previous night, was it had found a random set of tweets. And because it could not find a legitimate trending topic, this algorithm, by no one's fault, or someone's fault, but not sort of any deliberate agenda, right? It said these tweets by total unknown people about this actor is important, okay? So this happens maybe at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And then in the morning, right, like what winds up happening is on Twitter, there was this product there was a way where they could highlight these tweets and kind of give big imagery. So one of these people wakes up and some of these folks are, just sometimes had a political agenda, but I think they were just like, hey, I just want to do my job, and this thing is trending. They did not know this came from an error. So at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. New York time, they take this and they go say, this is a thing which is happening on the internet, okay? A couple of hours later, all these editors of all these, media publications wake up. They're like, oh, there's a thing people are talking about on the internet. Hey, can you chase this story down and write about it? And by the afternoon, I think that whole thing, the guy's agent was getting calls and be like, oh my God, like what is happening, right? It is the internet is talking about this. And the reason I bring up this story is, first of all, it's kind of silly, right? It's like a Hollywood movie. Nobody really cares. But it tells you, right, like how almost easily, inadvertently, you could shape the discourse, right? Shape the arc of something, so easily, right? And the combination of the algorithms, the metrics, and some of the people inside Twitter meant you could really influence the world. Like I often call Twitter, a memetic battleground. You know what memes and memetics are, right? So Twitter is a place where all these ideas fight. And if you win, you get to spread all over the world a little bit. And so one of these things that people wound up doing was finding ways to sort of inject their idea into this memetic battleground and try and fight everyone else. Now, this was rewarded by the algorithm, because what the algorithm was doing was it was looking at, okay, what is getting the most attention, likes, retweets, right? And these were often things which were provocative, like had like made people angry, right? And then those people would get followers. Okay, so there was this kind of the system which was being created where if you said something provocative and you made people angry, right? Like one, you could kind of shape the discourse. Second, the algorithm would be like, oh, this is what people on Twitter want because it's getting more attention. I'm going to send you more followers. I'm going to bump you up in the algorithm, right? And this had two, I think, catastrophic impacts, right? One was that the people who were sort of exhibiting some of the worst behavior, right, like were getting rewarded, right? Like the more you get people angry, the more, you get people outraged, like the more attention you're getting. But the second more subtle thing which was happening was when somebody new signed up on Twitter, right? Imagine you walk into a restaurant for the very first time. Okay, you walk into some fancy smancy Michelin restaurant and you're like, okay, what, everyone's here in a suit or dressed up, right? Like, and you're like, I gotta look the part. Or let's say you go to, a sports bar, right? Like late night, you're watching a game, it's a bit rowdy, you know the vibe. The thing which Twitter was doing was it was shaping the vibe to be one where anger and provocation was rewarded as opposed to kindness, as opposed to education. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. There was a lot of it. And obviously, you and I and others have had great experiences. We're sort of pushing the ball over in one direction, right? And when new people signed up, they were like, oh, I don't know what this place is. Oh, but who's doing really well here? Oh, it's that guy who's getting people angry. By the way, this happens on YouTube. This happens on platforms all the time. What do people do? They're like, what are the videos that are doing really well? What are they doing on the thumbnail? What are the titles look like? Let me copy that. So one, you're kind of giving people who are exhibiting something more wealth, some literal wealth. Second, you are training everybody new at Twitter. Those are the icons. Those are the people you should follow, right? So there was kind of this whole system which evolved. And so anyway, my point of this sort of roundabout explanation is, one, it taught me the absolute power of social media. Second, that how these systems, when centralized, can have real power, right? And real censorship, and how it is important that you have absolute transparency, number one. We need to know what algorithms exist in these platforms. We need to know that there is no ideology in these platforms. So it kind of really was an awakening moment for me. It kind of really shaped me. Think of me as somebody on the inside, like, oh my gosh, like, we need to sort of fix these things. And this is for every platform, by the way. I'm not picking anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, every platform. The second thing it kind of really sent me down the path of was decentralization. This idea, which I think is kind of a lot of the crypto people, would really resonate with, is like, we as people need to have ownership over how these things work. We need to have a say. We need to know what is happening behind the curtain. And maybe we just don't have like one big thing. We need to have a lot of other small things competing. So it may be very distrustful of top-down, centralized control. And it made me feel like, okay, I need to find a way to bring more decentralized systems into the world, which kind of why I wound up in crypto for a while. But yeah, so social media, I think, shaped my career. It's given me a lot. But I also saw a lot of sides of it. My Twitter time was deeply formative for me. And when I left, I wound up investing, but part of it is like, okay, I need to find ways to battle some of the negative things I saw over there.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's just such a powerful tool. I mean, back to 2020 election time frame. Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw what appeared to me, from an outsider, is we saw a sitting president get banned on X, get banned on Facebook, get banned on Instagram, get banned on YouTube, banned on all of these networks. And so, the way it appeared to, I think, everybody is that these top guys, that own these companies are controlling the entire narrative, mm-hmm. everything that's going out. And it appeared, and I don't think it appeared, it was that way. Everybody leaned one way. And, that was obviously towards the left, and it I mean, what was that one platform they just pulled it? AWS pulled
Parler.
Parler. Yeah,
Yes.
they just pulled it. I'm not sure why. I don't know what is going on in there, but it was like, holy shit! Like now there's an entire party,
Oh, yes.
with zero voice, to include a sitting president, and that really, I think, opened everybody's eyes
Yes.
immediately of how powerful and dangerous that this could be.
The deplatforming was huge. I think in a way, like I had sort of seen the building, I had seen what was building up. So I was not terribly surprised when all of that happened. But if you think about that era, right, number one was you had the previous administration putting pressure on the social media platforms to take down content, right? Like they would send these angry emails. This is now all documented and it's come out in depositions and lawsuits and hearings and whatnot. They would send all these angry emails to say, hey, you need to take this tweet down, right? Like, we don't love this tweet about Hunter Biden. Like, we don't like this tweet about, mask mandates or whatever the case may be. So they would send this down. The second thing, I think what was happening was, this was the peak of the culture wars, right? And these platforms where, like, there was this domino effect where if one person, took down a video, a piece of content, downranked something, shadow banned, for example, then every other platform immediately felt pressure. Because what would happen is all of a sudden you would get an email from the former White House, a member of Congress, or a New York Times hit piece, which would be like, hey, those guys have taken down this thing. You guys are leaving this up, and you are responsible for all these crimes. So so they try to enforce the Overton window of conversation, and they try to really shrink, what can be said. And I think, in some ways, I think the platforms, I think the turning moment, in my view, and some people may disagree, is when. Well, obviously, before this election would be when Elon bought Twitter, okay? Because I think that totally changed how free speech on the internet works. Because all of a sudden, you had one platform, and by the way, I was there. I was there on the first day. We're kind of jumping ahead a bit, but I had spoken to Elon, and he told me he was going to do this. I had left Twitter at the time for a couple of years. And I joined this venture capital firm, but Elon said, look, I'm going to do this thing. Can you come help me out? And for me, it is a little bit like getting a do-over, because I could go back, and this is not an official capacity. I was not an employee, but like maybe I can go back and, I didn't have the power to do some things, and I didn't have $45 billion to spend on a social media company. By the way, that was a problem I had. But now I have a chance to put some things right. Okay. So do you remember when Elon bought Twitter, the let it sink in day, when he bought the sink in? So I showed up that same day, kind of snuck in, making sure the TV crews didn't see me. And that was such an experience, just watching Elon work and trying to sort of clean up the company, finding all the ways that, sort of these progressive levers had been hidden. And for me, there was a chance to kind of like put right some of those things. And I would say that moment changed how free speech on the internet works, right? Because all of a sudden you had a major platform, Twitter, then X, which was trying to live by free speech, which brought back the president, right? Which brought back a lot of people who had been taken down for just asking simple questions like, hey, what is the origin of the COVID virus? Okay, are masks effective, right? Or how can you say that we can't sit together in a restaurant, but a protest is okay, right? Like, how does that work, right? Like, but even just the ask a question will just get you account blank. And now here's a platform that was bringing it back. And look, people have a lot of complicated views on Elon or the company, but I do think that moment was huge in changing how free speech on the internet works. And I think even today that is not appreciated for how important that moment was.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.